Today we're going to start talking about key features of quadratic functions, and we're going to actually look at the key features from a graph, and then tomorrow we're actually going to look at the key features of a quadratic function from a table. So, looking at your quadratic function here, remember yesterday we talked about how this is called a parabola. Few key features here in a parabola. The very first thing that you need to know is that a parabola is split in half by something called the axis of symmetry. Okay, so if we were going to fold over the parabola, it would match up from one side to the other as long as we fold along the axis. At the very bottom of the axis of symmetry, or the top, depending on which way your graph is going, we have a point here, very top or bottom, that is called the vertex. This vertex is also going to be the minimum or maximum of a parabola. Okay, two other key features that you'll need to identify that you've already learned. The first is a y-intercept, and remember we used y-intercept when we graphed our lines, so that was always our b. And then our x-intercepts are here. Notice we have 2 here. For your x-intercepts, it's possible that you have 2, 1, and sometimes 0, so make sure you pay attention to that. Okay, so key features here. Axis of symmetry splits the graph in half. The vertex is at the very top or bottom of the graph, so the minimum or maximum. The y-intercept is the point where the graph crosses the y-axis, and the x-intercept is the point where the graph crosses the x-axis. Remember, for your x-intercept, there could be 0, 1, or 2 x-intercepts. Okay, so key terms here. Already on your sheet, you don't need to write anything down. Reminder, the vertex is the point at the top or the bottom of the parabola. If it's at the top, we call it the maximum. If it's the bottom, we call it the minimum. The axis of symmetry is the vertical line that cuts the parabola in half. More key terms. We haven't talked about these. Domain is always all real numbers for parabolas. I shouldn't say always, because sometimes parabolas open sideways, but we don't do those in Algebra 1 or Algebra 2. So, if the parabola is open up or down, domain is all real numbers. So, your domain for this unit should always be all real numbers. Okay? Your range is going to use the y value from the vertex. Okay, that y value, okay, so my y value is going to go right here where that number sign is. Okay, if the graph opens up, so if the graph looks like this, your range is going to be y is greater than or equal to that number. So we're using this value here. If the graph opens down, okay, we're going to use the less than sign and that number, less than or equal to. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through some of these. Identify the key features of the quadratic function graph below. Okay, very first thing is the vertex. Okay, vertex is at the top or the bottom, okay, where the change is direction. So I have a vertex at the point 1, 2, 3, so 3, negative 4. 3, negative 4 is my vertex. Okay, and since that point is at the bottom of the graph, that would be a minimum. You're going to circle one. Okay, domain is always all real numbers. You can write it either writing out all real numbers, or you can use this symbol for all real numbers. It looks like that. Okay. And then my range. We're going to use the y value from our vertex. So we're going to take this negative 4 and plug it in for our range. And then if you look back to this slide, notice our graph opens up. Okay, so if it opens up, it's greater than or equal to. It gets bigger instead of getting smaller. So my graph, if we start at this point, everything is above it. We're going to use a greater than or equal to sign. Okay, x-intercept, there is 1 right here. So that is the point 0, 5. Sorry, that's a y-intercept. And then x-intercepts, we have 2 at 1, 0 and at 5, 0. And then it says to draw the axis of symmetry and write the equation. Okay, my axis of symmetry goes straight through the middle of the graph. I apologize, that's off a little bit. Okay, so my axis of symmetry is right there. And it goes through this 3. Okay, so x equals 3, because that's where it goes through our x-axis. Okay, so those are the key features you're going to need to identify throughout this unit when we're graphing parabolas. Okay, let's do one more. Okay, again, the vertex is at the top or bottom of the graph. So notice it's right there. So we have -2, 0. Okay, so this time, because it's at the top of the graph, it's a maximum. Domain is always all real numbers. So remember, that's the symbol you can use. Range is going to use the y value in your vertex, so that's a 0. And if you flip back, remember that if the graph opens down, the numbers are smaller than that. They're below that. So we're going to use the less than or equal to sign. Okay. My y-intercept over here is at -8. So we are at the point 0, -8. And then my x-intercept we actually already have up there. And see, there's only one point where it touches across it. So we have -2, 0 for our x-intercept this time. And then we need to draw our axis of symmetry in. Okay, so I drew that in, and it goes through at -2. Okay, to help you out a little bit with this, notice that my axis of symmetry and my range, if I put those together, it gives me my vertex. So that -2, 0 for my vertex, the 0, the y goes for my range, the x goes for my axis of symmetry. Okay, if you have any questions, please stop right now and ask us before you start the guided practice problem. Go ahead and do this problem if you're understanding everything and have it checked before you get your homework. Just kind of to review what we did. Today we did 8.4. Yes, we're going out of order. Identify key features from graphs. Tomorrow we're going to do 8.5, which is identifying key features from tables. So again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Hit pause, rewind, raise your hand, let us know if you're struggling on anything. If you aren't, get that guided practice problem done and let us see it, and we'll give you your homework. Have a great day.